I'm Associate Professor Chris Jacobson. I'm from UQ Centre for Policy Futures, and I want to welcome you all to our latest In Conversation webinar series aimed at engaging stakeholders with topical research being taken by CPF members and visiting experts. I want to just remind everyone that the session is being recorded at the moment as well. So before we start, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners and their custodianship of the lands in which we meet today. In my case, it's Kurlipa on the lands of the Jagera people in Brisbane, Meanjin. We pay our respects to their ancestors and their descendants, past, present and emerging, who continue cultural and spiritual connections to country here. And we recognise their valuable contributions to Australia and to global society. So just at the Centre for Policy Futures, we're tackling pressing policy challenges facing government today by providing a clear interpretation of emerging issues and practical recommendations on effective policy design and implementation. So our work is guided by a strong commitment to social justice and the principle that the voices and lived experiences of people across global diverse communities should remain central to public debate and deliberation on key social issues. So today we welcome our visiting academic Associate Professor Phanith Chou, an agricultural and environmental economist at the Royal University of Phnom Penh in Cambodia. He's collaborating with Pedro Fidelman, Rob Arce-Diacono and I on a One Health and Agricultural Inputs project. Now, Phanith earned his PhD in international development from Nagoya University in Japan in 2019, and he has an extensive professional background, including research on the economic assessment of nature-based solutions, environmental impact assessment, cost-benefit analysis, and sustainable food systems. And for the past 5 years, Phanith has contributed around 3 million Australian dollars worth of projects, including 2 ACR projects, one on agricultural input use and One Health in Cambodia, and a second on the role of agriculture and forest landscapes on human and environmental health. He's also worked in CGIAR research projects, including SEAT and World Fish, and a range of other programs exploring sustainable food systems and agroecology and commodity value chains. So today, Phanith will present the preliminary findings of a case study on agroecology crop protection for sustainable cashew production and One Health in Cambodia. It's part of a ACR research project on this topic, so we'll try afterwards to try and tease out some of the policy findings from that work for the audience. So without further ado, I welcome Phanith.
Thank you very much, Chris. I hope you can hear me well. Perfect. So thank you very much for the introduction, and thank everyone for participate this webinar today. I have a great honor to come to Brisbane and do a kind of the collaboration work with Professor Chris and the CPF as well as the team. So I just would like to share what actually our preliminary finding from the one of the ACR project on the ACP, we call agroecology crop protection in the cashew farming. So just let me highlight a little bit background why we are interested on the ACP or agroecology crop protection. If we go back to the history, we can see our agriculture have been emerging and transformed such a long time, 1,000 years ago. But things have been quite changed during the Great Famine in India during the 1960s. During that time, the people seem to be lack of food, the hunger. So the scientists start to think about the Green Revolution. So the concept of Green Revolution have been emerging in the the late of 1960 and then move on the 1970. And this idea become more and more intense on our agricultural inputs news. So when we have more intensify on agricultural input news, of course, we can address some kind of the food shortage. But at the meantime, we come up with have the adverse impact from those kind of the green revolution. Up to now, we can see that approximately 33% of the soil have been rendered or degraded. Have been degraded, and also the fresh water that we use for irrigated on the crop is also affected. So this is one part we got a kind of our crop irrigated, but in another side, our aquatic resource, which is also another part of the foods for the local that depending on the fishing also face the problem, and also the food, also the water drinking is also have the problem. The biodiversity, the land conflicts also happen everywhere, because when we try to expand agriculture, we intensify the conflict will erupt with the indigenous people that living in the forest area. So this is become a kind of the conflict. So we come up with questions whether our modern agriculture can address the system solutions for the whole global food security or global food system or not, especially from the aspect of the agrochemical that creates a kind of a lot of adverse impact for our human health and also for the environmental health. So for those that are not have the context for Cambodia, Cambodia is a small country, and we use case study from Cambodia because Cambodia is quite a very interesting country, because we used to have a rich natural resource. More than 70% are covered by the forest area, but just several decades, our natural resource have been degraded. And the farmer that used to use the conventional or sustainable agriculture practice almost change completely to the intensify of agriculture, because we really need a kind of the GDP growth. So of course, in the positive outcomes, in the positive outcomes, we achieve a very positive GDP growth, and agriculture still contribute very high in terms of the GDP of Cambodia, 60%. And if we see the global levels, it's always bounce back, sorry. The total labor force in Cambodia in 2025 is contributes 33%. So this is something that we can see the importance of agriculture sector. But if you look into the data observations since last 10 years, we can see right now the use of pesticide or fertilizer have been increased sharply, dramatically increasing. That is very concerned whether this kind of the movement transformation is sustainable or not. So this is on the figure on the right side, we can see the rate of the use of the pesticide, like in here, the study site that we conducted right now. The use of pesticide is more than 70% of the total farmer that they use it. It is very, very concerns about the pesticide or chemical use. So that is very concerned and very problematic. So our team, we try to answer three related questions that related to the policy. What actually the pathway that we can really make use this system more sustainable, so we can observe what actually the ACP, and very interesting among ACP that a lot of practice, but we observe only one practice, that is the weaver ants. So the weaver ant is a small ants, but they have a function as a nature-based solution to address the crop protection for the cashew. I will explain the reason why. And then the extension using the weaver ant, comparing the conventional agriculture input news, what actually the difference, what actually the constraint, why this is a very effective, but not so many people still adopt this technology, and what actually the benefit by introducing ACP to the cashew. So this is the three emerging and also important policy question that we try to address in our study. So we use one of the controversial province in Cambodia because it have a large forest area, but the expansion of the agricultural area have been drastically increased. So we use this province over here. It is the northern part of Cambodia, share border with Thailand, as the case study. So we try to interview a lot of key informant interview. We do a kind of the remote sensing using the satellite image to see the change of the spatial and the land use change. And we also observe at the field to see the ecological function from the river An, how they contribute to the cashew. So that is our method that we spent last year for collecting the related information and tell the story to everyone today. So for people that also not really have a background on the agroecology, so ACP here, there are three main principles that we concern. This is a nature-based solution. One part is we try to manage the IPC, the integrated pest management, to control the pests and the insect. Another is the style of farm management under agroecology, and we try to conserve the biodiversity. That these three principles together we call ACP, agroecological crop protection. So that is the principle that we try to utilize this concept and make it happens in practice in the cashew farm as the example, as you can see in the picture on the right side. That is the interconnection. They transfer V1 from cashew to another vegetation, so they can really sustain their population, and they also can protect all the insects in that farms. So that is the simple way that we learn from these three concepts, and we utilize it and expand for the whole farms. Yep. So that is the picture that they are moving during the daytimes. So this is over here. As you can see, the green is the forest area, and the yellow here is the agricultural plantation. So you can see during the 2000, when we observe from the satellite, that is only agricultural field up to here and also in the middle nearby the towns. But the change right now between 2000 to 2010, the agricultural expansion is not really much. But between 2010 to 2023, you can see all the forest area in here have been degraded or deforested and replaced by agriculture. And these agriculture are replaced only two main crops, cassava and cashew, as you can see on the right side. So the dark green here is all the cashew. So that the location that we see the people start to intensify, try to encroach the forest land and also intensify their cashew farm. So this disturb all the whole system, but not only the biodiversity, but the function that provide the wild food plant for the indigenous people in the province as well. So this is something that we try to see. So right now, the people that are still have grow or plant the cashew in the orchard ways in that large province, we try to see the VVN can be used or transfer the technology by three way in terms of management. One, they just planting the fruit trees inside the cashew farm. They can plant the mango. They can add up the jackfruit and other mixed crop like the longans or the other. So they just would like to have the mixed fruit tree. So the weaver ant can really transfer and walk around from one tree to another tree. So they have enough food for it in the year round. And they also can protect all the insects in that diversified cashew orchards. And second, farmer also can learn how to identify, because Vivan is not the gentle, they are quite nasty animal. So even themselves, among themselves, they always fight to each other. So farmer try to identify the colonies of the river ants. So they observe the group of the river ants from their orchards, and they try to draw in their sketch mapping, and they try to control the colonies. So we can really sustain the total population If they don't do that, the weaver ant will fight each other and they kill each other, and the population will be decreased. So the capacity to protect the insect will be reduced as well. So this is the way that we do the sketch map in the whole farm with farmer and try to identify the colonies, make sure they can survive each together in their cashew farm. And last, we just use a simple technique. We use the string connect from one tree to another tree. So the group, a single colony of the weave ant can travel from one to the other. So this is the process that we transfer weave ant to another tree, and they can find enough food, and they can travel to protect the cashew tree by killing the insect in the farm. So this is a simple technique we learn from the indigenous people, and we learn from the characteristic of the weaver ants, the food chains of the weaver ant, and we brought it into management into the cashew farm. So this is very effective among the farmers in Prairie here right now under the program. So right now, I think in Cambodia it's not really, it is the indigenous or traditional knowledge, but not really documented well in the policy or in the extension agenda. So during our field visit, we know that asset program is one of the initiative program. They start this kind of technology and technique with the prairie people. They start to work with 100 farmers only in Rovieng district. And among those 100 farmers receive training, and they do a kind of the practice in their farm. So they are really adopt very well, very quickly, because we just really do something aligned to their traditional knowledge. So just after several training, after showcase and demonstration in the direct farm, all those 100 farmers adopt the technology, and they also have other farmers to share the knowledge as well. So after success in Roving, another program come in again, and they also use the same technology spreading out to other farmers in the same province, another 45 farmers. So not only in Prabhir, but also spreading to other province as well. So this is happened just within last 2 years. So this is very quick extension and very success. Even it's not really scale out to 100,000 farmers yet, but the adoption have been very positive increase. So that is very success story from Prabhir province in Cambodia and spreading out to the other. Because we change here not only the techniques, but they change to even the behaviors of the farmers. So I just read out some kind of the quote that I try to note from what they told me. Example of farmer in Jovian, they said, I am now better understanding of the function of nature and interplay with ant in my cashew and mixed fruit tree. I observed that weaver ants can kill ants and other mosquito bugs and keep my cashew fruits and nuts look nice. That is what actually we bring the knowledge for them and let farmer observe and adopt and share the knowledge by themselves. And another interesting story from a lady in Rovieng as well. She said, all the organic farming is not high yield. She agreed that then those that use the additional fertilizer and pesticide. But it is good for us when we do not sick, we don't feel sick as the result of new chemical input. So that is to another story that the farmer recognize that they don't feel sick because in their farm is very nature based. So comparing to the other, she's certified that even the yield is not really high comparing to the monocropping of the cashew, but she's certified because in terms of the human health, she can really get well for this kind of the ACP system. So this is the story of the behavior change that farmers keep spreading out. And I hope this spreading out will document well, and later on it will be scalable for the whole province and also for the whole Cambodia, and probably we can learn for adopt for other country as well, because the technology diffusion very fast. If comparing to another extension in Cambodia, this kind of technology it very fast diffusion because they start only 2 years and the information spreading out. but the manual and the document is not really in place yet. It's just only coming from farmer to another farmer, mostly this kind of the farmer of field school only. So the process is going positive, but not fast as much as we expecting. So on my last research question, we try to observe the benefits. So the benefit here, we try to observe into 4 dimensions. So the 4 dimensions that we observe, what actually the benefit from the VVNs is about the natural pest control. So this is unquestionable. They can really control it. And second, we try to compare the economic benefit between the VVN farmers and also the monocropping farmers. So from that, we can see the year comparing between VVN farmers, it's less than around 20% or between rank 20 to 30% of the yield per hectare per towns. But the riverine farmer don't spend the pesticide use or herbicide use, insecticide use in their cashew farm. So the production cost is almost 90% lower than the monocropping. So when we match together, the economic return of the riverine is really, really viable comparing to the monocropping. So that is something that we can provide the evidence that the yield is low, but in terms of the whole economic returns, it's really comparable with the monocropping. So that is something that very considerate into the extension. And this calculation of the economic, we don't include the human and environmental health into the CBA calculation yet, and also the system resilience that align with the traditional knowledge yet. So if we quantify these 2 dimensions, put into the economic together, we really positive that the river and farmer can reach very high benefit cost ratio. But will be the next further study that we are going to observe. I hope for the next project, we can really spend more time, do the quantification of the human health and the environmental health from this system and quantify those ecological function and ecosystem service and use that value to put into the economic benefit. And then we can provide the more added economic value. And then this is something the evidence that we can provide more for the policy. So my last slide, I just would like to have only 4 key messages for everyone that can take away from this webinar. And then after that, we will have the discussion and I welcome for all your questions. The first mistake is the adoption of V1 is very positive that I already mentioned. It's very positive because it starts just only 2 years and this information spreading out very fast, very fast. So that is very positive, I hope, because this is something we don't start the new thing. We start by learning from the local or traditional knowledge. And we start from that. That's the reason that we can achieve the positive adoptions. And the existing right now, the existing program start to interesting on the River An. Not an asset project is finished, SMP is finished, but the continuity from another program like Hex ISPER, they still would like to continue. So this is something the continuity and sustainability of the extension already exists from that technology of the ACP. And this kind of the river techniques, we still need to collect more evidence, especially from the economics perspective in order to provide. So this is the third takeaway that I think that if everyone interesting and our team for the next phase as well, we will collect more information in order to provide the economic evidence that it can be more provide a kind of the pathway for the policymaker, and then they can include into their national policy extension agenda, which is my fourth takeaway, that we can really use it as the extension model and spreading out for the other model of the agro commodity as well. And without incentive, I also concerned, even we have the good technology, but farmers sell that organic cashew at the same price with the monocropping cashew, which is not really make sense at all. They don't have any incentive at all. So if the we don't have any incentive policy at the premium price. I just very concerned that the situation may be outflow and turn to the same situation like other province nearby province here. They emerging from that orchard style into the monocropping style. So we will merging because the key mistake number 3 will provide a kind of this incentive model on the key mistake number 4. And if we achieve this number 3 and number 4, I think we can really spreading out this technology for the other ACP model as well. So that is my short presentation. I hope that after this we will try to put it into the manuscript, and when we have in the production, I hope that we can share to everyone. So thank you very much, and especially to Chris for moderate this session. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Phanith. So we're going to have a little bit of a discussion now, I think, about how this Weaver Ant case study links to policy and other initiatives within our program before we open up for the questions. And I'm keeping a note of the questions there in the chat. So we'll come back to Ratea and Savillari's questions shortly. So our ACR project is really interested in how we can use policy, both regulatory and other types of policy, such as support for certification and premiumization schemes, to drive improved and more appropriate use of agriculture inputs in Cambodia. We're also working with case studies on sustainable rice platform, which is a sustainability certification of rice program, and good agricultural practices, which is a certified low agriculture input use scheme in Cambodia for supply to local markets. So I wanted to take a little bit of this time to start to talk about some of the lessons about the levers, the policy levers that we have for addressing this issue of inappropriate input use. And I think when we've been discussing these case studies, we've identified the common thread is that if we can shift behaviour around input use, then we can improve the livelihoods and prosperity of the farmers that we're working with. And we can also achieve co-benefits for those farmers. And there's some interesting avenues here around growing premium production that support the government's goals for Cambodia for development and livelihood improvements for its communities. So I wanted to take a time, firstly, to ask you, Phanith, about why you think the weaver ant mixed with the fruit trees is good for farmers. Is it an equitable outcome if the government was to support this kind of approach? Or are we asking farmers to pay for the ecosystem services that are provided through these kinds of sustainable farming approaches?
Thank you very much for the question. Right now, there's no payment for ecosystem service scheme have been applied in Cambodia. The farmer themselves are aware that keeping weavers in the cashew farm is the income diversifications. And this is something that we don't have any payment scheme yet. That is something that we need to work on, because right now we still need to quantify what actually the real ecosystem service that benefit by keeping weaver ants in the cashew farm, and what service generate from that weaver ant, and how much is it per 1 hectare of that cashew orchards. And then we do a kind of the spatial, do the multiplication, and then we can see how much of the generate service quantification service from the weaver ant, and then we can generate the economic value, and then we can run the payment for ecosystem service, which myself, this is a kind that we don't have time. We did not have time last year to conduct this study, but I hope that we can really do this so we can have the idea in terms of payment for ecosystem service later on, and then we can use it as the policy. Because right now, farmers themselves bear the cost. They manage themselves, they pay themselves, and they just collecting the benefit from what their cashew farm, but there's no additional payment from other farmers, from the government, even from the development partner. That's not any payment scheme yet.
Thanks for that, Phanith. What factors then are driving farmers' decisions to do this kind of system? If there's no payment or additional benefit, are we just keeping these farmers with low production yields? I mean, is that supporting the government's agenda?
Yeah. The yield is not really lower significantly comparing to the monocropping, but of course, it's a little bit lower than the monocropping. We cannot deny that. But one thing that drive farmers to adopt this there's a lot of factors. And one of the factors, maybe they are the indigenous people, most of them. And they living in that location, they are associated with the nature, they are associated with the forest area nearby. So they learn from this kind of the indigenous knowledge such a long time. So they are aware of the importance for that. So, but they just don't know how to manage it well, sustainably. So when we learn from them, observe so many years, and we use their local knowledge plus the scientist knowledge together, and we deliver to them. So we deliver the technology at the right times in the right location. So that is something that two drivers that make people learn quickly on the technologies. So that is one of the factor. So we're learning from the indigenous knowledge and use it a little bit, modernize it and put into the extension. So that is one of the main drivers. But the other drivers, we also try to find introducing the diversify, like the picture that I show here. So this is the intercropping between the cashew, weaver and the gingers. So this kind of the gingers and also the pineapple. So we ask them to trim the tree, not me, but the team. They ask farmer to do a kind of trimming the tree so the light can go through in, and they collect not only the cashew nuts, but they also can harvest the ginger, which is very valuable additional crops, and pineapple and the mango. So instead of only single income source from the cashew nuts, they can really diversify income from many sources. So this is very good for small scale farmer or semi-commercial scale farmer. But for the large commercial, that is probably not really fit for them yet because it's difficult. I know they need to be everything productivity, efficiency, but for this technology is for farmers that are looking for diversify their income from the single orchard. So that is the second drivers that really make change of the behavior of farmer to adopt the technology.
That's great. And how do you think we could scale this kind of project? How is it scalable for everyone? What kind of policy do we need to support the scaling of more sustainable agricultural systems like this?
I try to discuss this with the development partner and also with the government and also Ministry of Agriculture and also the expert to see possibility of scaling up. There's a lot of challenge and also question as well whether we can really scaling up or not. And we agree that during the discussion, ACP or Vivan is not for all cashew farmers. This Vivan we can really use for the farmers that living nearby or inside the protected area that have still the forest area. So this is something that we can use it as the buffer. So if the farmer living nearby or located inside the protected areas utilize this system, we can really make their livelihoods better. At the meantime, we can safeguard the forest. So this technology can be used and introduced and put into the regulation for farmers that living inside or nearby the protected area. Like in Cambodia, we still have almost 7 million hectares of the forest, and million people are still living nearby in that location. So that is also enough to introduce this system that benefit for all, not only for the farmers, but for environmental health, human health, and biodiversity. So that is something that we can really make use this benefit and make a kind of the regulation, a small regulation. We have existing regulation in terms of protected area laws, but we can really combine it into the livelihood improvement and utilize this technology so it will be fast because we do the regulation that align with the existing policy in Cambodia.
Interesting. It's great to see crossover between agriculture and environment policy. One of my observations when I was looking at your case study is that in this case, we have local NGOs and development programs who are really active in supporting improved practice. In the sustainable rice platform, we have the private sector that's driving it. With our good agricultural practices in vegetables, we have government and other stakeholders. And then in organics, we have certifying bodies who are really driving the practice in Cambodia. So I think it would be really interesting to hear from you. What do you think the role of the government and its policy is? We often think for reduced agriculture inputs and agriculture, we need more regulation of the actual inputs. But we're seeing here a range of actors who are driving practice change. So what kinds of policy interventions do you think are important that could help not just the weaver ants, but in these other examples as well?
Yeah, I think you just touch upon the importance. So the policy of the international sustainability threats that Cambodia Ministry of Commerce already have it by collaborating with the Ministry of Agriculture. I said here for particularly Cambodia case only. This kind of the policy that reach out the international threat, they need to certify. So the certification of organic or safe products in terms of the chemical contamination, that is one of the drivers that can really make the people on this kind of the weaver and farmer to keep this technology because their product is already safe, already organics, and they can really just link to those premium thread you mentioned here, the premium threads that we can really compete with the international market. So that is the good policy that we can really encourage farmers at the supply chain to manage themselves and deliver it to the premium threads. That is one of the policy. And second policy that you just mentioned is the environmental policy that uh, there's a lot of things, payment for ecosystem service, carbon credits from those agroecology commodity or plant vivo, red plus, that all of those kinds of things that we can really combine. It's not a single policy, but it's a environmental conservation financing policy that they can really touch upon this and integrate into their mechanism. So that is second that I believe that it will be effective to utilize this sustainable approach into their existing policy. So the payment scheme is still on the draft, but I think if they can really make this happen, it will be doable for Cambodia and other country that have a contradict between the agricultural movement to the forest area. So this is the case that we can really utilize and financing for everyone to reach out the sustainable.
Excellent. I think that's the end of my kind of pointed questions. I open up the floor to others to ask any questions. We have a couple of questions here in the chat. Would anyone like to raise their hand to ask a question? Otherwise, we go to the chat questions. Perhaps we just start. A comment here from Sibile. Concao, what is the density of cashew trees that you observe, and did the farmers have to compromise some trees to make way for the intercropping, for example, with legumes and fruit trees?
Yeah, that is very good question. Actually, here is the orchard. So the density, we don't count it, but the density is between 6 to 12. It means that uh, from tree to another, but farmer, they don't really do a kind of the very perfect row. They do everything, a kind of provide enough light that can really absorb into the farm and pave the way for the vegetation that can grow under the cashew trees. So the density between 8 to multiplied by 12. So that is the density they always do it. And this is the way that when they try to trim the branch of the tree, they can really provide light that can absorb too. So this is something that the way they can do it. And for some, especially for the ginger, they also they sometimes they sacrifice several trees, but not much, 2 or 3, to make sure that they have good lands area, and they can really put the ginger because they do a kind of their own economic calculation. The gingers inside with the cashew provide almost 200 to 300 times benefits than the cashew that, but it's very labor intensive. They cannot do all because that is the intercropping between the ginger and the cashew. They need to interact like this together. So, and based on their household labor, they don't really hire the other labor. So based on their household labor, 2 or 3 labors within the average size, 3 hectare to 4 hectare, that is they need to balance between that. So of course there are some cases they sacrifice some cashew tree, but most of the case they just try to find the light, and they plant the ginger across their cashew so they can really manageable for that. Right now, mango and cashew tree, no, ginger and cover crops, the sunhams or the other stilo, they also do it, and then they collect the fruit and sell it to the private company as well, and the pineapple. So this is the most famous intercropping system that provide food for everyone, and also they integrate well in their cashew orchards. That is my answer to civilize.
Fantastic. Gomathi.
Oh, hello, good morning. Thank you very much for a very interesting presentation, Phanith and Chris. Was great to hear from you. I was just wondering, when we talk about this, the weaver ants, and you did describe that it's hard to maintain the population because they fight among themselves. But do you observe, does it disturb the ecosystem within that, not just within their species, but then does it also intervene other aspects of the ecosystem? Have you made some observations around that?
There are some competing between weaver ant with the wild bee. That is some kind of the competing, a little bit competing, because but those two animals are very clever. I say clever because they come in the different season. So the weaver ant try to come to when the young leaf of the cashews during the rainy season, or during the rainy season, and after that during the dry season on March, April, the bee come. Even there's some competing, but they come in the kind of the different season. During the very hot season, the weaver ant moving from the cashew tree to another tree on the intercropping, and then the wild bee coming, and they do this integrating. So there's some small disturbance of the ecosystem of biodiversity, but not much, because those animals are really know each other. So that is something that we can see, the small disturbance on the ecosystems.
Thank you so much.
But the major problem right now is the colony. They fight among weaver ants themselves. That is, so sometime in the farm, if we don't really control the colony, they kill each other. It completely die. We can see all the weaver ants die on the ground. That is the serious problem. That's why we ask farmer to control the colonies and try to control. Sometimes we need to cut down some tree to make sure the leaf are not connect to each other. Because when they fight, one small group, just like we see a cartoon, the other come and make like the wall. So that is something we as farmer try to observe. When you observe just only 1 or 2 year, you can really see and draw it into your map by your hand. And then you can really observe the colony, the group of specific weaver ant. That is something that if you don't control, the weaver ant will be die, and then the year and the insect will just come. So the service of the weaver ant will be not really fully function.
Thank you. Thank you for your.
Thank you, Gomatri.
Others, please feel free to raise your hands and ask a question. We have one more in the chat box from, and I'm not sure which way around the name is, Rataya Mang. What are the disadvantages of using weaver ants in the cashew farm? And perhaps we could broaden this to what are the advantages and disadvantages of using biocontrol more broadly, and particularly from a policy perspective. What other side effects are there, equity effects, etc.?
Yep. Actually, right now we're just doing a kind of the farmer's perception and the observation from expert to try to see the advantage and disadvantage from the weaver ants. But for sure, next time we can really do. But we used to test it, the chemical contaminations from the weaver ant in those areas through another ACR project in Stung Train or the other. And the weaver ant farmer are really rich, very organic, good standard. So this is something that we can see is not really provide harmful or exposure to the chemical spreading out to the human health, especially to farmers. So that is a lot of advantage that I already described. For the disadvantage, I don't have any evidence yet because beside the weaver ant bite the kids or the farmers that come to collect, that is the only disadvantage that we observe during our field work. But if everyone here can share what are the disadvantages, I'm more than welcome. But this I try to see and discuss with the farmer. The disadvantage is only the weaver ants come and bite the people. The small kids always climb to the tree, and the farmer that come to collect the nuts without any caution, the ants can bite. So that is the only disadvantage. A little bit danger, but it's not really much danger if we know we really can detect the nest of the weaver ant, we know the way of the weaver ant, we can really prevent this kind of the small danger from the weaver ants.
Please carry on with the follow-up question. I can see your hand raised, Matteo.
Yeah, yes. Good morning. Actually, I know a bit about some weaver ant as well. Yes. Actually, these weaver ant I used to introduce to farmers in 2009.
Wow.
But without support, we just introduce the technique and introduce to them. But the adoption, it was that time it just quite challenging. And what I used to ask farmer about that, the one difficulty that they first challenge is like, especially during the harvest season. Yeah, because because during the harvest season, actually we were not only stay on the tree. Actually, it come down to the ground as well, and that really difficult for them. Sometimes they said, oh, they have few weaver ant, but during the harvest season they could not manage it. It's really hard for them. That a key challenge. Another one, if you cannot control the population of weaver ant, so it will affect the cashew flower as well. You can observe the weaver ant use the shoot, the leaf on the shoot to make the nest. If you don't control the population very well, it will have many shoot will become the nest of weaver ant. That also affect the flower as well. That's just my observation. That the farmer they need to observe the population of weaver ant. And related to the, if we talk about the economic perspective between using weaver ant and that not just focus on mono, it focus on, we can say, the conventional practice that they use agrochemical and something fertilizer as well. I think we need to study a little bit more about it. As my observation, the yield is quite significantly different.
Yep.
Yes, because in Roving I used to work there as well. The yield, the average yield around there, it's around 500 kilo to maybe 1 ton to 1 ton. If their soil is a little bit fertilized, that they grow the cashew in the mount along near the mountain, they can reach 1 ton and 2 ton, 1 ton to 1,200 kilo. It around that the way that they, we can say, use the organic practice, or we can say like that. But if we compare to the conventional one, if they do well, it 50% different. That's just the management. But in terms of the, we can say, environmental impact or something, it also different as well.
Yep.
And yes, and another challenge that the farmer use weaver ant, if they are close to the farmer that they use chemical, that's also really challenging, because the smell of the chemical from the other farm, and we can say some contaminant to the other farm, also affect the population or the survival of weaver ant in that field, especially when you introduce the new colony to that field.
Sure.
Yes. If it has the natural habitat there, they can know way how to escape. But the new one is really difficult.
That's true. That's true.
Yes. Yes. And my recommendation is just like, in order to want it, the technique to be spread, I think without incentive, it will not. It's difficult to spread. When the organization or the project finish, farmer will find their way something else. Yes, and the incentive, I think, should be start from the buyer. If we can link the farmer to the buyer, that they can get, for example, like higher price for them, and then make them strong, because this a kind of ecological practice. They should get the incentive for that to do it. Otherwise, they can do other conventional one. They can get higher yield and other way. Yeah, you can see the example from the organic rice, and first they start from the NGO support, and then after the NGO support is finished, only the private sector that they lead the market, actually the market driven. It seems to be private sector manage their practice. If you don't follow this rule or that rule or manage well, I will not buy, and you will not get the incentive. That is a way that can help farmer to expand that practice. Yeah, thank you.
That's very good option. We thinking about this as well, like yesterday, Chris, about the willingness to pay from the consumers and the private sector, how much they're willingness to pay for the premiums product that is organic from farmer. I agree with you. Market driven is a kind of the economic incentive for farmers to spreading out, because keeping them is a lot of times. But do the conventional agriculture using the chemical fertilizer is easy. So that is something we should provide encouragement, incentive to make sure they maintain and spreading out to the other farmer. Market driven, I completely agree on that.
Yeah, I was going to add the same point. With all of our case studies, we're actually identifying that there's a huge role to play if we want to reduce input use or ensure that we have appropriate input use for consumer-based policy, and things like sustainability disclosures, which are required of corporations. That's a new kind of policy that we're seeing globally, are having quite a really strong role in supporting more sustainable approaches in countries like Cambodia. So support for things like organics, sustainability certification programs is a key area. And I think the government's really shifted its policy towards premiumisation now and supporting and creating an environment for the private sector to drive these kind of sustainable agriculture approaches, which is really nice to see. Are there any more questions? I think, we're running out of time. If there's any quick ones.
Very quick one of them. Now,
can I have one question?
Okay.
Yeah, good morning. My name is Kong Keo. I'm from Laos. I'm from WWF. I'm very interested in cashew because I think cashew, the local people in Laos maybe also take it from Cambodia because we neighbor with Cambodia on the south. My quick question, what would be your recommendation if we want to do the same organic cashew in the south? What would be your very quick recommendation for us? Because people here start to grow, but they are very little. But we want to follow sort of the same model, agroecology approach, nature positive. But yeah, we want to do sort of follow the same. Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Civilized. Yes, I agree, because south part of Cambodia and then southern of the Laos is crossing using a lot of variety, local variety from Cambodia. 23, 809. There's a lot of variety they're using, and things start to growing in the southern Laos. I can recommend, because I just finished my another study of the cashew plantation. My recommendation is the same, because it is your Lao context is very similar to this prairie here context. It's just only the early stage. So we should start like this agroecology methodology, rather than introducing, and very careful, introducing the new species with the intensified methodology. They can earn a lot of high yield, but one thing that the mistake that you need to tell the farmer, you can gain high yield, but you spend a lot of money. Do you have enough capitals? And when the product loss, or who bear the risk? And what actually the long-term economic? Are you sure that this kind of the economic return really benefit for you in the long run? Please try to question, not say they are wrong, but try to list down economic reason with them in the simple way, and ask them to aware and start something small, integrating diversified income like this first, and then they start to maintain. Otherwise, it will be too late. Like the other case in Cambodia, it's already too late. We introduced this the same with other farmers. They said, no, it's too late for us. Our field is completely clean right now. Our cashew is along the way. We already intensify. The soil is become less fertile. We need to use more fertilizer, pesticide. So it become their habits become their tradition. So it's too late to change. But unless the government have a strong policy for enforcement to force them, but it's not the way we are doing. So my recommendation for the southern Laos, because I used to work in that nearby protected area, try to do something similar to this ACP in prairie here in Cambodia. We have the manual, we have the others, and try to work with them in participatory way. Ask them the question and let them aware by themselves, and then I believe that they will aware and use the economic reason, the benefit that their farmer can really reach the prosperity. I think is the best way for sharing the information technology for those farmers that early stage of growing cashew.
Thank you. If you don't mind, I will be in touch for materials for the measure and the lesson that you do in private here. Thank you.
Yes. You're welcome. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Look, I know we're close to time and everyone is busy. Please feel free to reach out to us at CPF or to Phanith directly if you have more questions or would like to see him while he's still here in Australia, or meet with the rest of the project team when we're next in Cambodia, which I think is August for the whole team. But of course, we have our partners in Cambodia, Royal University of Phnom Penh, Centre for Policy Studies, and RUA, Royal University of Agriculture. And lastly, I'd just like to acknowledge this work is funded by the Australian Government, ACIR, the Australian Centre for International Agriculture Research, and we really respect their time and input to our project and our ongoing activities. Thanks, everyone. Enjoy your days.